Hey, thanks for being here. I wanted to talk about the full moon coming up in Aquarius. That is what this video is going to be about. I'm going to do my best. I'm a little overstimulated. I've been around 4 kids for hours. They're between the ages of 5 and 8. um, yeah, so I'm pretty spent, but I want to try to make this video. So I guess I'll just get into it. I gotta say before I start, everything I'm gonna share in this video is simply my interpretations of the planetary activities that I glean from poring over the charts at any given time. And I just enjoy sharing my symbolic mind. That's really what it is. We all have a symbolic mind, and astrology is really rich for interacting with the symbolic mind. So it doesn't have to be literal, or I don't see this as predictive work. I see it as tapping into collective energy. And I've always felt really attached to the collective, like since I was a kid, pretty much. And I just never knew how to connect with it, the collective consciousness, you could say, until now. So hopefully somebody out there enjoys this. I don't know, but I'm just sharing it because it's fun. So the full moon is going to be coming up on July 29th in the morning at around 7:36 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we have first of all the unique things about the full moon coming up. There's 2 outer planets aspecting both luminary bodies. The moon is going to be with Pluto retrograde, and the sun is going to be smack against Jupiter, super close, almost exactly the sun and Jupiter, which I will get into. So we have the axis of Leo and Aquarius. But first, I want to get into what a full moon represents symbolically. A full moon in astrology is the opposition between the sun and the moon. The sun and the moon are on opposite sides of the hemisphere, of the wheel, you could say, visually. And what an opposition represents is 2 planets that are struggling to express themselves, and they kind of imbalance each other. They unbalance each other, I guess is the right way to say it. They create a rift. So it's almost like a competition between the planets involved in the opposition. So a full moon is always an opposition. And we have the sun and the moon, very different luminaries that represent different forms of consciousness. The sun is our outward conscious expression, and the moon is our inner subconscious. It's like our quiet self. The moon is very deeply tied to who we are, but it's the quiet self. It's not going to be screaming. It's like the part of a person that you really have to tap into and attune to understand. But in an opposition, they're both trying, quote unquote, trying. I like to talk about planets like they're people. I don't know why I do this. They're trying to um, get one another to act like each other. It's like when you have a relationship with a family member, and one family member is super opinionated and the other family member is like subdued, and the opinionated family member is like, why don't you act like me? And the more quiet family member is like, just leave me alone. This is kind of the sun and the moon during a full moon. The sun is inherently trying to expose the moon's emotional qualities. The sun can't interact with the moon in the opposition without exposing, because that is what the sun does. It's like a burning away of the exterior. So the sun's influence on the moon during a full moon, it's like trying to bring things out into the open for expression before they're ready. That's why full moons are often tied to heightened emotion. And the moon during the full moon is affecting the sun by bringing obfuscation of elements that should be obvious. There are some kind of wacky, confusing elements to the moon's influence during a full moon. It's behavior that is going to be expressed because the sun is so flamboyant. But the moon is almost saying, all right, fine, you want to bring out the subconscious, here it is, and I'm going to hand it to you on a silver platter. That's the moon. The moon kind of does go with the program a little bit. It brings out things before we fully feel ready. And this is also how it's tied to culmination. So what do we think when we think of culmination on the axis of Leo and Aquarius? Leo and Aquarius is the experience of the self versus the grid. Leo is the individual, it's the self, it's I'm going to live through me, right? That's what Leo is about. I'm going to live through me. I'm going to trust my efforts of expression. I trust that I have something to say. I trust that I have something to express. That's Leo. It's also about showing things, being out in the open. Leo is not about hiding necessarily, unless you're hiding behind an inflated sense of self-confidence, which is the shadow side of Leo. But as far as like a sense of dimming the self, that's not really Leo's realm. That's Aquarius. Aquarius is about the grid, as I always say. It's how we conform and how we tone down the emotional experience in order to fit in with the collective. It's the sign of the collective. The cliche for Aquarius is always, oh, it's about the oddball. It's about eccentricity. It's about being weird. In my opinion, this is just what I picked up when I was learning astrology. Aquarius is not about oddness at an individual level because it's a collective sign. It's a social sign. It's air as well. So, in my opinion, I could be wrong. This is just what I remember from learning astrology like 10 years ago. Just going to throw my seniority in there. I don't know. I remember learning that it's about the collective, that is Aquarius, because it rules groups. And I think the oddness connected to Aquarius is valid in that it represents humans as an odd species. That's how I see it. Like humans are weird compared to other species on the planet. Like we do the weirdest crap. And to me, that's the oddness of Aquarius. It's the weirdness of being human. And the grid we've built, it's huge. So, in my opinion, this full moon is on the axis of self versus the collective. And we have the sun in Leo, which is all about I'm putting my expression of self outside of the veil. I don't want to be covered anymore. I don't want to be veiled. I want the personal light to shine. It's also a culmination of outward energy. In Cancer season, we had that vibe of toning down the personal energy. And I want to be transparent and say that I experienced this pretty bad in Cancer season. I started my YouTube channel again in, I think, Gemini season or early Cancer season. And I got to a point in Cancer season where I was like, I don't want to show myself. People don't like me. Why am I doing this? And stopped sharing stuff. And now that the sun is in Leo, I feel like, wow, this is just fun. So that's the difference. Leo sun, it's like, I just feel playful. I feel like I want to live through myself, and I trust my ability to express. And I feel enlivened by creating and sharing. And it's just such a fun, beautiful, warm energy. So then we contrast it with the moon in Aquarius. The moon in Aquarius is very fascinating to me. It's the most fascinating moon placement, in my opinion. It's about lifting up others, in a sense, to help them fulfill their potential. The moon in Aquarius has a reputation for being detached and aloof, and I don't think this is fully true. It's not aloofness in a way that's always cold. It's aloofness because relating on the individual level, which is Leo. Leo is man to man, individual. I'm here with you now as what you are, which is a big part of this full moon I'm going to get to. Aquarius moon isn't cold to be mean. It's cold because it has a hard time relating to individuals because it's about the group. It's the emotional investment into community. That is what the Aquarius moon represents, because the moon is the emotions. It's where we invest all of our sentiments, the way we feel, the tides of emotion that can be so unpredictable. And with this Aquarius moon, it feels like really tapping into, this is where it gets dicey, the grid. Like all of us in the collective have an experience with the grid, whether or not we consciously think about it. And I can say from observing that people's experience with the grid is getting very intense. And I don't bring this up to make things feel heavy. I just bring it up in the context of this full moon. People's experience with the grid is getting intense, and I feel like the full moon is sort of a culmination of perspectives about the human condition. And one of the main themes I was getting when delving into it is this feeling of really examining what we are plugging into when we kind of circumvent our personal needs or our personal desire to express and be individual. What emotional resonance is on the other side of that? Like the Leo experience, it's about a smaller immediate focus of inspiration. If Aquarius is the big picture inspiration of like what are we capable of as a society, as a collective, the full moon on this axis really brings the question of what is the group feeling? That's the moon in Aquarius. What are people feeling in a collective sense? When we put our individuality aside, how is it received? And we have the sun conjunct Jupiter super tightly during the full moon. The sun and Jupiter together is a huge focus on reverence. This is the vibe of having realizations that we want to expand into something that's more meaningful, recognizing something within ourselves that aligns with a more philosophical truth. It's almost this idea of a higher calling. It feels very reverent, and it could be subconscious, of course. It's not going to manifest this way for everybody. It's just what I get from it. It's either waking up and realizing we want to rise into a higher calling, or waking up and realizing we want to have more respect or reverence for what we're already doing, like wanting to inhabit the less numb version of whatever we're doing in a daily sense. I don't know if that makes sense, but Jupiter is the higher mind. And how does the higher mind attach to the self? That's what this feels like. The sun conjunct Jupiter, like what are we learning about the experience of an individual in a higher minded sense? And what is the higher mind? It's basically that act of transcendence, of learning specifically to be able to transcend. And there's a very golden era energy to what this feels like. And I feel as though this full moon could be important for people to rise up into something more within themselves. And it's almost like the individual having the ability to wake up the collective that is sort of numb. And this is what I was feeling as well with this full moon. Like you look out and you see how numb the collective is. There's these realizations of when I rise up into something more meaningful, I try to share that, and people are just checked out or numb. There's a major check-in with how the group is feeling, or even just whoever we try to share higher ideals with. Like what happens when we want to become something greater? How does that influence rub off on others who are kind of asleep? And I know this sounds like, I hope this doesn't sound judgy or weird. This is just what I'm getting and I'm sharing it. But a metaphor that I got with this that made a lot of sense to me is, say you're, remember this is a metaphor, okay? It's not literally a prediction, but say you're a student in a school and you're assigned, because that's what Jupiter and the sun is. It's like, oh, I have a higher calling, I have a role to fill that's greater, more meaningful. The key word is meaningful. Jupiter conjunct the sun, it's like I want to be something more truthful or more meaningful, because Jupiter is all about what does this mean? What does it mean to be an individual in a world that's numb? That's basically the summation. But this metaphor, I keep losing it. I want to put this in here. Say you're assigned a presentation in school, and the goal with the presentation is to make it as you possibly can. Like present the higher minded information in a way that's totally you. It shines like you. It's everything that you would be proud to represent, that could help perspectives ascend, essentially related to the subject matter. You get completely ready to do this presentation. You're all excited about it. You work really hard on it. And the day comes for the presentation, and you go to school, you go to class, you're about ready to do the presentation, and you look out and you see the whole class is just asleep. Everybody's asleep. They have no level of receptivity. It's this kind of vibe. And it really, this full moon just really feels like a check-in with the level of receptivity when we feel inspired to find a deeper meaning. And a lot of this could also relate to breaking down old beliefs about self and how you're able to mature. Like there were some things in here about confusing obligation and maturity. Like there's fear possibly of being selfish because we have Pluto conjunct the moon in Aquarius. It's like don't forget about other people. Don't forget about what you're supposed to do. There's like a heavy transmutation of certain obligations and social expectations. And this is something I keep getting through charts of like really mulling over social expectation and roles and what we agree to in order to survive, essentially. Pluto is also about survival, and Pluto retrograde is going to be conjunct the moon. So these are the shadows of carrying collective grief, collective numbness, burdens as well. It's kind of heavy, but it's there to help us transmute these things that we're carrying. It's like the longer an individual goes without rising to a higher calling, the more numb the collective sort of maintains. And there is something else here about kind of breaking out of, this sounds really weird, breaking out of social hypnosis. And I feel as though the collective is really fixated on survival and crises, right? Which is very conscientious. It's beautiful to worry about so many humanitarian things, but it becomes this rhythm where we're kind of lulled into hypnosis by fear, focusing on fear. That's Pluto as well, Pluto in Aquarius. What does the collective fear? What are the crises that we are transforming and transmuting? And I was getting from this chart where it's like the collective is kind of lulled to sleep in some way by the rhythm of crisis after crisis. And it's not to say just ignore stuff, but there's a transmutation of these fears. And it starts with individuals choosing to be happy. And I feel like this happens a lot in our culture where we feel guilty for being happy as individuals because this fixation on crisis, because we have so much access to information and we have immediate access to how people are suffering. And what happens is when we feel guilty about choosing to be happy despite what's going on in the world, we all want to be conscientious and evolving and socially aware, which is the Aquarius moon. It causes the individual experience to lose dimension. And we have the we have the Aquarius moon and Pluto in a trine with Uranus. Uranus and Gemini, it's like, look at this differently. Look at the collective burdens differently. Free yourself from the collective hypnosis. And I feel like hypnosis sounds like a really judgy term, and that's not how I mean it at all. But there is something that happens when you stay tuned into the collective in the way that we do, where it's so easy to see what's wrong and it's so hard to see what's right. So, this full moon, I feel like, is about rising into the individual experience in a way that brings new life. And by having individuals rise into something more meaningful where they reject numbness, the collective starts to wake up because we need individuals to cultivate their full experience, free of guilt and free of shame about what expression represents. And this could also bring some fear of expressing something that's socially wrong. Jupiter and the Leo sun, it's like, I'm going to get to the truth of myself no matter what. But what happens when you tap into personal truth? We're afraid that it's going to get rejected in some way. Very powerful full moon, possibly. I think that's everything. Let's see. Okay, I want to read some of my notes and then I will get to the cards. Okay. It says, these are my notes here. This full moon comes with the opportunity to give ourselves the authority to create a new beginning. And I feel like a lot of us are afraid to start new beginnings because we're tuned into the rhythm of how scary the world is in the face of a new start. Like every time a lot of us look to the idea of beginning something, it's met with a brick wall of like, well, that's impractical. Not in this economy, not in this world. It's like the full moon is about giving yourself the authority to start something and thus pull out of the collective dis-ease, I guess you could say, in the face of beginning. And it's like seeing these cycles repeating, and it's just this collective exhaustion that we have the opportunity to burn through. um anyway, so the authority to create a new beginning. The collective must be led out of exhaustion by individual choices to stop repeating the cycle. So stop choosing exhaustion because it's socially conscious. And this is something I've felt for so long, and I'm scared to even say it. I'm afraid to even express, like, my perception of how unhealthy it's becoming to stay so tuned into crisis, collective crisis, because I don't want people to think I'm saying to just ignore and have no empathy. There needs to be a balance. Back to my notes. It's within all of us to live up to a more personal philosophy, which can, in its own right, change the emotional trajectory of the collective. So, like, what do you really believe that doesn't that isn't dimmed down by the collective expectation? If everyone falls asleep to the hypnotic hum of survival crises, then very few rise to a higher calling. Thus, what results is huge swaths of inauthentic beings moving through suffocating complacency. Do I sound emo or what? God. Okay, I don't think I'm gonna read any more notes. It's just what I was getting. You don't have to agree, it's okay. Maybe I'm wrong. A little bit more. This full moon represents releasing some of the old social contracts that are forcing us to carry the exhaustion of the collective, or even just whoever we share ideals with, because that's Aquarius. It's about sharing ideals, and the immediacy of individual expression kind of gets sidelined for the idea of togetherness and working toward a future. And a lot of that is intense with this moon as well. Like, where do we feel numb about the future? Like, shouldn't the future be exciting? I feel like it should be. I haven't been excited about the future in so long, and you know why? It's because the collective is in crisis so much. Like, the focus is always on crisis. And now the perspective of the future is terrifying. And it's like we have to pull out of that, I feel, to some extent. And hopefully, this full moon could be some sort of branching point. It's about waking up to spontaneous inspiration again. Fire signs are about breaking away from collective traps, because that's what fire signs do. They break away when something's not authentic, or if something is causing stagnation. That's what fire signs kind of do. They're unafraid to lead the group away or break off from the group. It's like how fire, you watch fire and it spreads. It starts as like a grouping, and then sometimes it offshoots. It's like that kind of. Okay. All right. I'm going to get to the cards now. So we'll do that. We'll do a card reading. I'll be right back. Okay. We are going to do the card pull. So here is how this works. What I just rambled about was what I call the transit talk. The transit is temporary. It will transpire and then it will move on. It'll be in the past. But the reading, for whoever finds this, it's for you. The reading is supposed to be timeless. The reading is supposed to be timeless. It's for whoever finds it. If it resonates, it is for you. If it doesn't resonate, don't worry about it. The reading is inspired by the transit that I just finished talking about. So I have 6 questions that were inspired by this Aquarius full moon, and I will pull cards. I'm going to shuffle and I will be back. Okay, here are the questions. Feel free to listen to whatever interests you or abandon them all. It's totally fine. It's your choice. Question 1. How are you really serving the collective? Because this full moon is about how we serve the collective through an individual higher calling. Question 2. What are some facets of your higher calling? Question 3. What are you understanding now about emotional connection to others? Question 4. If you follow your intuition now, where will it lead? Question 5. What element of numbness in your life is ending? Question 6. What social obligations are you ready to release? Okay, question 1. How are you really serving the collective? We have the Queen of Wands reversed. Toning down reactions and nurturing independence kind of behind the scenes. There's a behind the scenes quality. Queen of Wands reversed is about trying to share warmth, but something kind of blocks it, or there's a confusion about how to play a certain role. Upright Queen of Wands is about knowing where she leads, where she fits in a dynamic sense. But reversed, it's almost the energy of a social chameleon or somebody who really worries about dimming others. So right now, there may be a sense of not knowing where the light should go. Where should your light go? You're nurturing it behind the scenes, possibly. There is a lot of healing of anger, possibly, or resentment. Maybe that's what you're doing for others. You're healing resentment or anger in others. You're letting people react the way they need to. So, in understanding and kind of holding back certain instincts, you contribute freedom to the collective in some way. I'm going to have to clarify it so we can get more information. Question 2. What are some facets of your higher calling? We have the Devil reversed. Wow. There is a lot here about people's innate nature coming through. There's almost a study of instincts and reactions. There's a lot here about reactivity, and maybe you've tamed a part of yourself that has been really reactive, and you recognize when others get stuck in their own reactivity. Devil reversed is about being free from sabotage, self-sabotage. So facets of your higher calling involve being free from devil-oriented things like addiction or self-sabotage or feeling trapped or stuck. There is an unraveling independence coming through. The Queen of Wands reversed. So, yeah, let's see. Question 3. What are you understanding now, possibly, about emotional connection to others? Okay. 5 of Swords. This is deep exploration of like people's instincts in a context of toxicity. Understanding something about fighting back. Five of Swords is about being prepared to disarm or feeling a need to, have all these defenses. It's very over prepared in a sense. So we'll keep going. I'll clarify a lot of these. Question 4. If you follow your intuition now, where might it lead? Ace of Swords. To a breakthrough. Ace of Swords is the all's clear. There's a big clearing. Ace of Swords is all about new communication. So saying what you need to say in order to be free. That's what this says to me. And there is this hesitation to be the true self, which we all experience at some point, because maybe the true self in the past led to heightened reactivity. And it's like this sense of being tethered to others based on reactivity. And the Ace of Swords, you have an intuition about what to say in order to be free to express. Question 5. What element of numbness in your life is ending? Let's see. Temperance reverse, the imbalance. There's a lot connected to imbalance here. There's room to grow into a more expressive version of self that's not hampered by fear of reaction. Maybe you've been backed into a corner in the past because of other people's reactions whenever you would break away from them, in a sense. There's almost a possessive vibe coming through that you are balancing, and you have intuitions about how to do that. Okay. So, what element of numbness is ending? It's like constant imbalance. Temperance reverse. I don't know how to bring things to a peaceful conclusion. That's the past, though. Question 6. What social obligations are you ready to release? Possibly. 9 of Swords reversed. Dealing with others' anxiety. Now, I feel a little bit iffy about this reading. I don't know how accurate it will be. But one thing I feel strong about is like you're dealing with other people's reactions to stuff. Like if I say this, it's gonna unsettle them, or if they're gonna react to it in a way that repeats some sort of loop. It's intense, and you're ready to release being other people's anti-anxiety. You don't have to calm people down. You don't have to prevent people from reacting, because that is sort of a past thing. Okay, let's clarify, see if I can get some more confident info. We'll do these. Let's clarify a bunch of these because I don't feel super confident for some reason. It happens to me a lot. It's not a big deal. Them's is the stakes. Okay. Queen of Wands reversed was answering the question, how are you really serving the collective? And it's clarified by the Queen of Pentacles reversed. There is something being nurtured behind the scenes, being hidden, because it was almost taken away in the past. There's this feeling of visibility equating to theft or something being starved when it was offered. Queen of Pentacles reversed, she doesn't know her value. She doesn't know how to contribute, or she's very, very, very protective of things that nourish her soul. So I do feel that goes with this. Yeah, that's intense. There's the star. Wow. You have a very pure connection to whatever's bigger than these energies here. It hasn't hindered your connection to the pure transcendence, you could say is the word. Very pure connection to the ability to uplift, even if it hasn't felt like that. So this does feel like you could be in a state of ruminating over whether or not you can be uplifting. And they are saying that you can. We have 9 of Wands reversed. No need to prepare anymore. The old battle is complete. You are already an uplifting force. And this is almost the energy of waiting for another fight to come around the corner. So very tense, anticipatory energy. But it has not hindered your ability to uplift, to have a vision that is not connected to the lower nature of people. So I don't know if the lower nature of certain people has hindered your vision, but they are saying that it's still pure. You're still inspired despite. Okay. What about the devil reversed, answering the question, what are some facets of your higher calling? We have strength, taming, taming the lower nature, like being able to see it for what it is, and not only being able to see it, but also being able to tame it. It's like you're like a very cultured, maybe cultured isn't the right word. There's a word for it. I can't think of what the word is. It's like having a higher ideal of something or someone to aspire to, and being able to tame the lower forces that impede the purity of the higher ideal. Yep, we have the lovers, lower nature coming through in relationships, helping people tame their lower nature, their inner beast, you could say. It goes right back to the reactivity that I was seeing, where it's like having to navigate people's reactions. Very intense. Being ready for the battle. Magician, wow. Alchemy connected to lower nature. So that's like dealing with not codependency, but dealing with people in such a way that their lower nature became something you had to alchemize, you had to change it. You drew it in and you transmuted it and you tamed it. You've helped other people tame their demons, you could say. It's very powerful. Yeah, intense. 5 of Swords was answering the question, what are you understanding now about emotional connection to others? And this is almost like a vibe of graduating from the battlefield, graduating from lack of unity. But let's clarify. Knight of Wands reversed. There is an acceptance that you can't prepare for people's reactions. It keeps going back to this. You can't prepare for people. You don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if you've dealt with a lot of unpredictable people before that have taught you how to kind of armor up. but there's almost an acceptance that you don't have to help others be predictable. Okay, we have Five of Cups reversed, coming out of wounding around irresponsibility, unpredictability, people who have major highs and lows that, kind of drive you crazy, perhaps. There's a graduating from armoring up to avoid being brought down, and then we have Judgment reversed. So, in the past, avoiding judgments that would get you unstuck from having to deal with these reactionary states. Judgment reversed is like, I don't know what the right decision for well being is. And I think this is ending. I think it could become clear. Okay. Clarifying the Ace of Swords. If you follow your intuition now, where will it lead? Clarified by, there's the Queen of Wands reversed again. It may be shaky at first. There is a new expanded self that's coming through that is led by things you have the intuition to say. Like, I feel like I need to say this, or I need to make something clear. If I do it, will I run into the boundaries of self that felt trapped? Wow. Three of Wands reversed, learning how to go within and expand from inside in the corners of subconscious that has had to heal these wounds about unpredictability. Wands reversed really do have to deal with unpredictability. And maybe there is a part of yourself that has feared mirroring the unpredictable natures that were around you. And there's almost this intuition that healing that comes by going within, retreating, not in a sense where you stop acting to try to expand, but in a sense where you become predictable in yourself. Yeah, let me see. A couple more. I hope this makes sense. I don't know. Never know. Temperance reversed was answering what element of numbness in your life is ending, clarified by Ace of Swords reverse, being afraid to say stuff that's going to upset the balance. So I do feel like you've tempered some sharp observations in order to help people heal. It's being afraid to call people out because it wasn't safe in the past, maybe, to observe, to say certain things, to recognize or see clearly. And now it feels like your vision is expanding to where you're able to zoom in on more stuff. Okay. Yeah, being an authority in your own perspective. There is an exhilaration that comes from being an authority over your own talent for seeing. And this numbness of shutting down perception or perspective in order to maintain harmony is ending. This is almost like when I tap into authority around my perception, I feel alive, I feel in control. There's almost a vibe as well of facing fear of losing control by diving into, how do I explain this? If the fear is losing control, then to heal the fear, it's like diving into the instability through perception in a way where you can clearly see And thus it stabilizes. It's like facing truth. And it feels in this instance that truth comes with fear. There's hand in hand. Truth is fear, fear is truth. So facing fear of your own perception and ability to see the truth. I feel like that sounded weird. And then, yeah, it's all your intuition. What can you get if you open your perception? Powerhouse. Powerhouse energy. And it's almost like in the past, things were too true that you could see. Um, yeah. All right, one more. Let's see if I can do it. Nine of Swords reversed was answering the question, what social obligations are you ready to release? And what I got from this is you can stop being people's anti-anxiety, nurturing people out of reactivity. But let's clarify. Eight of Pentacles, I'm going to work on something connected to people's fear. This is consistency. This is calming atmosphere down enough to where you can be consistent. Okay. So maybe in the past, the obligation of dealing with people's unpredictability, which we kept getting over here, has led to a material instability or inconsistency. And now it's like releasing that obligation to nurture people out of anxiety or help people's emotional states be predictable. There is a release that will lead to the ability to be consistent and, quite frankly, master something. Eight of Pentacles is about mastery. Yeah, definitely learning a craft that goes against everybody else's junk, emotional junk. Wow. So if there's something you've really wanted to learn how to do or master, but it's been hard because you're dealing with other people's emotional junk, that is being released. There it is, moving forward. This is the clearest message so far. That is beautiful. No more letting other people's junk get in your way. That sounds very odd, but yeah. Okay. I'm going to end this here. Thank you so much for whoever watches this. I hope it resonates with you. And I will be back with more stuff. All right. Bye. Happy full moon.